Welcome to English Plus. This is your host, Danny, and this is a new episode from our series, Vocabulary and Speaking. Last time, we started talking about feelings and how we can use words to describe how we feel. And, it's not about always, I like this thing, I don't like that thing. We talked about ways that you can be more expressive, and not only more expressive or just add variety to your speaking and, of course, writing, but also there is the advantage of saying exactly what you mean. Because sometimes you just say something and you really want to mean something a little bit more specific, but you don't have the words for it. That's what I'm here to help you with in Vocabulary and Speaking. If you want to practice what you're learning in this episode, there's a link that will take you to a premium page on my website, EnglishPlusPodcast.com, where you can practice everything we're going to learn today. And saying that, let's start right with what we want to focus on today. We're going to continue talking about feelings and how to talk about feelings. This episode is actually talking about feelings too. We're going to have 3 as well, maybe 4. But anyway, let me tell you about what we're going to discuss today. Well, today we're going to talk about some idioms. We're going to learn some useful idioms to express our happiness, our sadness, and our anger. These are maybe the 3 most common feelings that everybody has all the time. And imagine if you only had 3 words to express them. I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm angry. Right, okay, that's very good, of course. And you need these 3 words, and I bet that you all know these 3 words. But what about more? What about adding variety? What about talking about very specific meanings? Because happy is a big umbrella of a lot of tiny little feelings that are happy, of course, but it's not exactly happy. I want to say more. How do we do that? Let's learn some idioms that will help us achieve this. So first, let's talk about extreme happiness. And now you might be thinking, fine, extreme happiness, I can simply say I'm very happy, which is okay, which is definitely fine. But what about more? What about different ways to really mean extremely happy? What about idioms that can mean extreme happiness? Well, I can simply say I'm extremely happy, but then this is kind of weak. Think about it. I mean, don't you have other words? You always say I'm happy, I'm very happy, I'm extremely happy. What about learning some very useful idioms that have exactly this meaning? You can simply say I'm thrilled to bits. I'm thrilled to bits. When you say I'm thrilled to bits, that means I'm extremely happy. But you can see right away that this is a much better version of just saying I'm extremely happy all the time. But that's not all. You can say I'm thrilled to bits, or you can say I am on top of the world, or I feel on top of the world. That also means that you're extremely happy. So, thrilled to bits, or on top of the world. And you can also say I'm on cloud 9. Now you will ask me why cloud 9, why not cloud 7 or cloud 6? I have absolutely no idea. But this is an expression. Remember, when we talk about idioms, we're talking about fixed expressions. This expression came to be at some time in the past, and of course there's a story behind it, but honestly I don't really know the story behind cloud 9. Why is it cloud 9 and not cloud 11 or 12? I don't know. But when you say, I'm on cloud 9, you mean that you're extremely happy. Thrilled to bits, on top of the world, on cloud 9, over the moon. Over the moon is another way to say that you're extremely happy. I'm over the moon. Or I'm in 7th heaven. And here, the number 7, of course, has some kind of religious roots, but it's not about the religious roots. It's about the fixed expression. It's cloud 9, yes, but it's 7th heaven. So remember, you have 5 different ways to express that you are extremely happy, other than just saying I'm very happy or I'm extremely happy. You can say I'm thrilled to bits, I'm on top of the world, I'm on cloud 9, I'm over the moon, or I'm in 7th heaven. So that was about talking about extreme happiness. What about other types of happiness? Or other happiness idioms, because it's not always about extreme happiness. Sometimes it's about happiness, but it's a little bit different, right? And here, the real special thing about these idioms is that they contain very specific meanings, very specific types of happiness, so that you can use them to be more specific, to say exactly how you feel. Now let's start with the first idiom, get a kick out of something. Get a kick out of something. Or you can add real to it. You can say, get a real kick out of something. Now, let's see how we can use that in some context. We can say, I get a real kick out of going for a run first thing in the morning before anyone else is up. So maybe that's you. Maybe you are this person who's, no, I'm not going to say fitness freak, but you get this kick out of running first thing in the morning before anyone else is up. When you say that, I get a kick out of going for a run first thing in the morning before anyone else is up, that means you very much enjoy doing something. Now that has to do with happiness, but imagine, would you want to say, I feel very happy when I go for a run first thing in the morning before anyone else is up? Now, of course you can say that. You can say, I feel happy when I do this. But does it really have this specific meaning that I very much enjoy doing this? I get a real kick out of going for a run? That's much better, right? So here's a new idiom that you can use in your everyday language. Remember, this idiom is informal, of course, so you don't want to use it in writing a lot unless it's appropriate, and you don't want to use it in formal situations. And that goes for most idioms. Now, if you're not very sure of how to use the idiom or when to use the idiom, try to avoid it because sometimes it's not appropriate and sometimes it may be a little bit offensive. Now with happiness, of course, there's not a big deal, but in other idioms that we're going to learn in vocabulary and speaking, well, of course, I will tell you about that, but always try to remember when to use this idiom best. And here, as I told you, this is an informal idiom, and that's not all. What about doing something for kicks? Have you ever done something for kicks, just for kicks? And what does that mean? Let me give you an example. Kate is keen to have a go at bungee jumping, just for kicks. You do something just for kicks. What does that mean? Does it mean she feels happy when she does that? Yes, of course. But what does it exactly mean? Remember, we're talking about being specific here. When you do something just for kicks or for kicks, you do it because it is exciting and usually it is something dangerous, like bungee jumping. Now, of course, it is not as dangerous as most people think, but it is still a dangerous thing to do. So when you do something just for kicks, you do it because it is exciting and usually it is something dangerous. All right? That is another idiom that you can add to your arsenal of talking or of expressing the feeling of being happy. And that's not all. You can jump for joy. For example, Rhonda jumped for joy when she heard that she'd won first prize. Now, of course, this one is obvious. The meaning is obvious. To be very happy and excited about something that has happened. And here, it's simply very happy or very excited. You can say she was very happy or very excited when she heard that she'd won first prize. Or you can say she jumped for joy. That's another way of saying the same meaning. That has a specific meaning of being very happy and excited about something that has happened. To be jumping for joy. And another one that has a similar meaning is to be floating or walking on air. I've been walking on air ever since Valerie and I started going out together. I've been floating on air or I've been walking on air. That means I'm very happy about something good that has happened. So, again, more specific and a different way of saying simply that I'm very happy. And there's one more thing before we go to the gloomy part of this episode, which is talking about sadness. There's something that makes your day. When you say something makes my day, what does that mean? Let me give a simple example. It's great to hear from you. It's really made my day. It's great to hear from you. It's really made my day. When something makes your day, what does that mean? Something makes you feel very happy. We use this expression or idiom, especially when you have a rough day, when you don't really have the happiest day of your life, and then something very good happens. Someone calls you, someone talks to you, someone gets you a gift or something, or surprises you with something really nice. So that really makes your day. That makes you feel very happy, especially if you weren't that happy before. Now, you don't have to be sad to use this expression, but at least you were not as happy before this thing happened. And when this thing happened, it really makes your day. So that is the last idiom I'm going to share with you that talks about happiness. Let me remind you again, we talked about extreme happiness, like I'm thrilled to bits, I'm on top of the world, I'm on cloud 9, I'm over the moon, I'm in seventh heaven. And then we talked about some other idioms like to get a real kick out of something, that means you enjoy doing something very much. To do something just for kicks, when you do something because it is exciting, and usually it is something dangerous. When you jump for joy, you say that when you are very happy and excited about something that has happened. Or you can say that you are floating or walking on air. That means you're very happy about something good that has happened. Or finally, we said something makes your day. That means something makes you feel very happy. So that is about happiness. Next, we're going to talk about sadness. I know I don't usually like to talk about sadness, but sadness is part of life. And if you're never sad, you'll never be happy because you wouldn't know what happiness means. I know I'm getting philosophical and all here, but it's kind of contrast. If we don't feel sadness, we will never really understand what happiness means. And it's part of life, and we need to talk about it. So how do we talk about it in different ways other than just saying very sad, extremely sad, etc.? That's what we're going to talk about next. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. So now we're going to talk about idioms we can use to express sadness. And this time I will read you a message, an email or a text message, whatever you want to call it, that was sent from Jennifer to Sarah. Now in this message, or email if you will, there are a lot of idioms, useful idioms that express sadness. And we're going to learn from them. We're going to stop, talk about them in context. But first, let me read this email to you. Dear Sarah, hope all goes well with you. Unfortunately, everyone here is out of sorts. Will is down in the dumps because he doesn't like his teacher this year. I've told him that it's not the end of the world and that he'd better just grin and bear it, but I think he likes being a misery guts, and so he complains about her every night. Pat is also suffering from sour grapes because I got the role in the school play that she wanted. This puts a damper on every meal, so I'm really looking forward to staying with you at the weekend. Love, Jennifer. So that was the email or the message, and we had a lot of expressions that mean sadness, but these are specific meanings of sadness. But imagine if Jennifer only knew the word sad to talk about all the things she talked about in this email. How would this email be? It would be very dull. Let me show you. She would go like, hope all goes well with you. Unfortunately, everyone here is sad. Will is sad because he doesn't like his teacher this year. I told him that he doesn't have to be sad and that he'd better not be sad. But I think he likes being sad. And so he complains about her every night. Pat is also suffering from sadness because I got the role in the school play that she wanted. This makes every meal sad. So I'm really looking forward to staying with you at the weekend. Can you imagine saying sad over and over? Or there's a better way. You can learn these expressions and use them when appropriate to add variety and to say exactly what you mean. So let's start with the very first one. Now, Jennifer here said, unfortunately, everyone here is out of sorts. Out of sorts. What does that mean? When you're out of sorts, that means you're slightly unhappy or maybe slightly sick. It doesn't always have to mean unhappy, but sick. And here I'm not saying extremely unhappy. I'm just saying slightly unhappy or slightly sick. That's the meaning out of sorts. That's not the last one. She also said, Will is down in the dumps. Down in the dumps. That's the idiom. Well, that simply means unhappy. That's just another way to say unhappy. Maybe very unhappy. But that's the meaning of down in the dumps. And why is he down in the dumps? It's because he doesn't like his teacher this year. I've told him that it's not the end of the world. Now, you probably heard this expression many times before. It's not the end of the world. When you say it's not the end of the world, you say it to somebody, that means what happened won't cause any serious problems. I mean, yes, it's not pleasant what happened. It's not a pleasant experience, but it's not the end of the world. There are not going to be serious consequences that are going to ruin your life because of what happened, like when two people break up. I mean, of course, it's painful. It's physically painful sometimes, but it is not the end of the world. That's the expression. And then Jennifer goes on and said, I've told him that it's not the end of the world and that he'd better just grin and bear it. Grin and bear it. What does that mean? You just grin and bear it. That means you accept a situation you don't like because you can't change it. When you have a situation that you can't change, just grin and bear it. Just accept it. Even try to smile because you have nothing in your power to change anything. So that's the meaning of just grin and bear it. And then Jennifer continues and said, but I think he likes being a misery guts. Now, someone who's a misery guts is someone who complains all the time and is never happy. So when you refer to someone as a misery guts, you have to be careful. Because it's not just about being unhappy. If you just want to say being unhappy, you can use down in the dumps, for example, or just say unhappy, of course, from time to time. If you want to say people are slightly unhappy, you can use out of sorts. But don't use a misery guts until you really mean exactly this. Someone who complains all the time and is never happy. And it's very informal, by the way. You wouldn't want to use that in a formal conversation or in your writing unless you really know what you're doing. So, a misery guts. Well, what else? She continued on and said, Pat is also suffering from sour grapes. Now, when you suffer from sour grapes, what does that mean, sour grapes? That means you are jealous about something you can't have. And why? Because I got the role in the school play that she wanted. So she's suffering from sour grapes. She's jealous about something she can't have. And finally, Jennifer concluded by saying, this puts a damper on every meal. So I'm really looking forward to staying with you at the weekend. When you say this puts a damper on something, that means it stops an occasion from being enjoyable. We can't have fun anymore. This puts a damper on every single meal we have. We're always sad. We're always upset. This puts a damper. Or by the way, sometimes dampener is used instead of damper. So you can say this puts a damper on every meal or this puts a dampener on every meal. Both are fine. You can use the one you like. But that means it stops this occasion from being enjoyable. All right? These are idioms you can use to express specific meanings that are related to sadness. Not only I'm sad, he's sad, very sad, etc. We have more words, we have more expressions. You have to expand your vocabulary bank to be able to express yourself better. Not only to show off that you know new words and new idioms. Of course, you may show off if you want, but this is not the point. If you really want to express yourself better, you need more vocabulary. And not only words, but also idioms. And later we'll talk about collocations, words that come together, phrasal verbs, other things, expressions, not only single words. But anyway, these were the idioms that I wanted to share with you to express sadness. Let me remind you again, out of sorts, which means slightly unhappy or slightly sick. Down in the dumps, which means unhappy. It's not the end of the world, that means what happened won't cause any serious problems. Just grin and bear it, that means accept a situation you don't like because you can't change it. A misery guts, we use it to talk about someone who complains all the time and is never happy. Someone is suffering from sour grapes, that means being jealous about something you can't have. And finally, this puts a damper or a dampener on whatever you want, that means stops an occasion from being enjoyable. Alright? These were the idioms that I wanted to share with you that have to do with sadness. And we still have one emotion or one feeling that we want to talk about in today's episode, and that is anger. So, of course, it's important because everybody gets angry from time to time, hopefully not too much or not too often, but we all get angry and we want to talk about it or we want to describe how other people get angry all the time, etc. So we need those idioms that will express exactly what we want to say about this very important feeling and very common feeling, of course, and that is anger. That's coming next, so don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. So we come to the last feeling that we want to talk about in today's episode, vocabulary and speaking. I will have to remind you again that if you want to practice everything we're talking about, you can take the link you can find in the post if you're on Patreon, or if you're already on the website, you're already there. And there you can practice everything that I'm talking about in today's episode. So back to angry. Now, being angry, again, we can simply say I'm angry, I'm very angry, I'm extremely angry, but there are other ways that you can use to talk about this. And by the way, all of these idioms I'm going to share with you are informal, and you can use those to talk about yourself or about a third person. Let me start with fed up. I'm fed up with trying to live on such a small wage. You're sick and tired. You're upset, you're angry, because that's not a good situation. This is not a normal situation. I'm fed up. It's not exactly angry, but it can be. It can also mean unhappy or bored. But it can also mean that you're getting angry, you're getting so upset with trying to live on such a small wage. I'm fed up with trying to live on such a small wage. What about when you're very worried and desperate about something and not knowing what to do about it? You can simply say, I'm at my wit's end, trying to keep things in order. I'm trying all the things I can to keep things in order, but I don't know what to do anymore. I'm so worried, I'm so upset, I'm so desperate trying to do something, but I just can't. I'm at my wit's end, at my wit's end. And by the way, pay attention here, wits, it's W-I-T-S apostrophe. all right? It's not apostrophe S because we're talking about wits, which means intelligence or brains, and we're using it as a plural word, and we're using the apostrophe with it. So it should be S apostrophe, not apostrophe S. I'm at my wits' end trying to keep things in order. But that's not everything. What if something gets to a level of annoyance that you can take no more? Now, sometimes there are annoying things that happen at work or, with people maybe your family, maybe your friends, but it's kind of okay. You can take it. You can stand this annoyance. But if you can't stand this annoyance anymore and you get to the point when you can have no more of this thing, you can say, I've had it up to here with your behavior. I've had it up to here. And usually people use gestures with that. They use their hand and they point to a level, maybe, just like around the level of their noses. So I've had it up to here. With the hand gesture, that means this level of annoyance got to a point that I can take no more. And what about if someone gets extremely angry? Of course, we can say he was extremely angry, or you can use the word furious. Remember the word furious? You can use furious if you want. But here, remember, we're talking about idioms, right? Expressions, fixed expressions. You can say have a fit or throw a fit. You can say, for example, your boss will have a fit or will throw a fit when he finds out you forgot to reply to those letters. He will get extremely angry. And to become so enraged or angry, you can also use the word blood. And by the way, blood has a couple of ways that we can use to express anger. You can say, for example, that someone's blood is up. If someone's blood is up, they are very angry and may react in a violent way. But there's also something else about blood that has to do with anger. If you are after someone's blood, you want to catch them in order to hurt or punish them. Now, of course, it doesn't have to be literal and you really want to kill them, like literally kill them. Not exactly like that. You may want just to punish them. You want to hurt them, maybe not exactly physically, but the point is that you're really angry with these people and you're after their blood. He's after your blood. Now, sometimes it may happen at work. I mean, the boss or somebody else is very angry at something you did and they're just looking for you. They may just want to yell at you or maybe hit you, I don't know. So I come to you and I say, just pay attention. This person is after your blood. You'd better just get out of sight for now. Let him cool down and then talk to him. So maybe something like that. That's the expression after someone's blood. Or you can say out for blood. If you are out for blood, you are determined to find someone to attack or blame for something bad that has happened. And again, it can be literal, dangerous, and maybe criminal, or it can be something not exactly literal, it's a little bit metaphorical. You don't want to physically attack them, but you want to yell at them, you want to scold them, etc. So you're out for blood, you're very angry and you want to really attack this person or blame them for something bad that has happened. So these are ways that you can use to talk about being angry. Remember, these are I'm fed up with something, I'm at my wits' end, I've had it up to here, to throw a fit, someone's blood is up, if you're after someone's blood, or if you're out for blood. So these are expressions that you can use to express very specific meanings that are related to anger. These are not everything. Let's finish today's episode by talking about angry relationships. And here, of course, we're talking about what people do to other people in relationships that don't have to be like marriages or something like that, but it could be anything, friendship, just co-workers, or marriages, of course. Now, what about if someone drives you up the wall? Now, for example, we can say the neighbor's loud music every night is driving me up the wall. What does that mean? Obviously, it makes me very angry. Now, sometimes, by the way, it can mean very bored. You will have to figure it out from the context. Now, in this context, obviously very angry, not very bored. I mean, the neighbor's loud music every night is driving me up the wall. I'm very bored. Doesn't make any sense, right? That means make me very angry. But what I'm saying is that this expression, drive someone up the wall, can mean sometimes that it makes someone very bored. But not in this example. And not today, because we're talking about being angry, right? And now the next 3 idioms, they have exactly the same meaning, to make someone annoyed. Let me start with the very first one. Let me give you the example. Jill always manages to say something to rub her father up the wrong way. So to rub someone up the wrong way, that means to make someone annoyed. So here, she's making her father annoyed. She rubs her father up the wrong way. Or you can use ruffle someone's feathers. For example, Joe says what she thinks without worrying about whether she might be ruffling anyone's feathers. When you ruffle someone's feathers, that means you make this person annoyed. Sometimes it's important, but sometimes you will have to be a little bit thoughtful and try not to ruffle anyone's feathers. What about if two people are so angry with each other that they refuse to speak to each other? You can simply say not be on speaking terms. For example, they haven't been on speaking terms for years, although neither can remember what they first quarreled about. But the expression is to not be on speaking terms. That means you're so angry with each other that you refuse to talk to each other. You refuse to speak to each other. Not be on speaking terms. What about if you are angry at someone and you want to tell this person how angry you are with them? You can use the expression give someone an earful. For example, the old lady gave the children an earful for nearly knocking her over. She gave them an earful. You give someone an earful. That means you tell this person how angry you are with him or her. And finally, you can give someone a piece of your mind. And that means, again, you tell them how angry you are with them. For example, he'll give the boys a piece of his mind if he catches them in his garden. If you give someone a piece of your mind, that means you tell them how angry you are with them. And by the way, that might be important sometimes. I'm not saying that being angry is the solution or being angry is good. No, not at all. But what I'm saying is, when you are angry, you really need to express your anger. Now, of course, the trick is to express your anger in a non-aggressive way. If you are aggressive, you might incite aggression in the other person that you're talking to, and the problem may get a lot bigger. But when you're angry, you don't want to keep it inside of you. You will have to learn how to express your anger in a civilized way, but you need to talk about it. If someone makes you angry, you will want to give this person a piece of your mind. Remember, I'm not encouraging you to go yell at people, not at all, but I'm saying that you don't keep it inside. Express your anger in civilized ways, but express it. You give someone an earful, you give someone a piece of your mind, whatever you do, don't keep it inside. Because that will increase the cortisol levels in your brain and it will do you harm, especially in the long run. So don't do that. But anyway, we talked about different idioms that we can use to talk about anger and to talk about angry relationships, and that will be everything that I wanted to share with you in today's episode. Remember, we talked in today's episode about idioms that we use to talk about happiness, to talk about sadness, and anger, the three most common feelings people have all the time. And I hope that you appreciate the importance of learning new ways to say the things we always say by just saying, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm angry, or maybe adding very or extremely to these words. No, here we have different ways to be specific, to talk about a specific feeling that I have, to be more expressive. You can express specific feelings now. Not just I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm angry, which is good, of course, but remember, we need more. That's not everything. Things can be specific sometimes, and these words and expressions can help you be specific and say exactly what you want to say. Now, that being said, I would like to thank you very much for listening to another episode from English Plus Podcast. This is your host, Danny. I will see you next time.